All right, welcome to the Bhangra Social, where we kind of get a top 5 of some of our favorite Bhangra artists, and maybe sometimes beyond as well. Right here, right now, it is time to check in with, for me, the best DJ we have in our industry. It is Jags Klimax. How are you, Jaga?
Ipsy, what's going on? First time I've done a link up like this in my bedroom. So yeah, man, it's honoured to have everyone in my bedroom with me today.
Crazy
oh,
times,
good, man.
Everything.
Crazy times, mate. Crazy times. I'm even having to do my own safety. Look,
Maybe try get.
Yours is all right.
I've cut my own hair, mate.
You look sharp though. You done all right. You're looking all right.
I can't get.
Don't worry about the back.
Listen, it's got that bad. I'm asking my missus for an Alice band, man. That's where we're at. We're at Erlo level.
You know what? After Beckham did it, everyone can get away with it, man. You're all right. You're all right. Rocking one of them now. It's good. It's good. What's going on? You well?
All good, man. Thank you very much for taking time out. So I thought we'll have a little bit of fun while we're in lockdown. And let's dive straight into it, man. The top 5 Bhangra albums for Jags Klimax. You're always spinning tunes. You've been buying albums for years. So to narrow it down to a 5, I know it's difficult. I've given you a bit of leeway at number 4. But let's go straight in, man. At number 5, you've gone for that.
Disclaimer. This was my answers today. It's not my answers overall. It's like when someone says, "What's your favorite song or favorite album?" Like, you know what? It's too difficult, man, because you just like so many. So this was what I was feeling when I got out of the shower today. That's
on the 15th on a Friday in 2020. All right.
Yeah,
so have you put that disclaimer in? In at number 5, it is the 1998 classic from Punjabi MC. Legalize. Talk to me about Legalize, man.
Listen, this is one of them albums that you can literally listen to from start to finish. I remember my journey to Metro Music in Southall, on Southall Broadway, back in the late 90s. This was when it came out. And little teenager, going on my missions to go and get records and new tunes and stuff. And I remember getting this album. And you know what? From start to finish, it's flawless. It was like it's a DJ producer, something that I was aspiring to be one day. And I kind of had it in my mind that this was something that I really enjoyed and wanted to kind of focus on doing. And the album, man, from Mundi and the Bachke all the way to Challa, the last track on the album, I think that was, it was just phenomenal. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And that album, you can listen to it, you know, whether I listen to it then and whether I listen to it now, it still sounds fresh. Even though you've heard the tunes about 1,001 times, it's still got that freshness about it, and I think that's why I had to put it in my top 5.
What's your favorite track from it? There's Jack Hogia, Sharabi, there's Galaguria, there's Sounds of the Days, there's Chala, like you said. What's your favorite?
I think obviously Mundi and the Bachke was the one, wasn't it? Really, that just what when you heard it, you just thought this is just a killer. And I don't know whether it's because everyone's heard it so many times, it kind of get the excitement and the hype of it dilutes, but that tune was just phenomenal. There was only a few tunes I can remember listening to in my life, Bhangra wise, that was just a killer.
All right, let's move on to number 4, where I have allowed you to go with 2. So it is a joint of the 91 Bali Sagoo album, Star Crazy, and the 92 Bali Sagoo album, Wham Bam 2.
Go
on. Talk to me about like Star Crazy.
Do you know what?
I remember that one.
I just remember these tunes being mixed and mashed. Like they were like mega mixes, weren't they? That Bali Sagoo used to do. And you know what? It'd have all the banging tunes on there. Like you get a lot of these guys nowadays doing very similar things, and like the tracks are like 5-7 minutes long or whatever it is, and it just got snippets of all your favorite tunes. And it obviously was fresh. It was the first time someone had done something like this that I had heard at that time. And you know what? These albums were on repeat, man. And I remember seeing the Wham Bam album, it would have been good for me actually to pull them out of the loft and the garage. It was like a red album, graffiti-ish kind of.
Yeah,
It was like a comic kind of like
yeah.
pop art kind of a front cover, and it was like, wow, this is something else. And the Star Crazy album, obviously, Bally Sagoo. That was the first time I saw who this guy was, and he's looking cool with his earring on and his hairstyle, and I was just thinking,
Still
this.
got.
Yeah, and I was thinking, this guy is just cool, man. I wanna listen to this album again and again. And like, and then again, man, massive inspiration. Someone that you just want to aspire to be, like one day. And listening to these tunes, you're just like, how's he doing it? How's he doing it? Is he mixing it with tape? Is it with records? Is it what? Like, how's like? It was just the guy was just like magic.
See,
back then. It was so.
I was gonna say, like, but this he kind of did something like that, but they recreated it and sang it again. Like what Bally Sagoo did was take, like, the crazy thing is what he done back in 90 and 91. If we were to do it now, it would still be difficult. Like the creativity and the stuff that's gone into it, it would still be difficult to make now. And that's with every single piece of technology available. This guy was doing it with like 8-second sample time, and like it's just crazy. I don't think people appreciate how difficult that was to put together back then.
Yeah, and it's just the level of imagination. Like at the end of the day, like for us guys, like we're in 2020 now. A lot of things have already been seen and done. So yeah, you're gonna put your own spin on it and whatnot. But when you're the first to do it, that's something else. That's a different level of credit you've got to give them. Like someone having the imagination to put things together. You know what, man? That's great. Being a DJ, being a producer, the imagination level and the creativity level is awesome. But to be the first to think about that, you just think to yourself, yeah, this is something else. And that's why it was so special. And that guy, man, he's just a G, and he at what he does, and all the other kind of remix stuff that he done after the Bollywood stuff. But that was the thing that set it off. And I remember listening to that record constantly, man. I think I must have worn my record needles down so much, just on repeat Bally Sagoo stuff back then. Proper G. The guy is a G. It's a wicked album.
So in at number 3, if the first two were DJ producers, this is like a fully fledged band vibe. Is it's a big album, man. The Safri Boys and Bomb the Tumbi. What is it about this album for you, man? What does this album do for you even today?
Do you know what? It was just his voice, man. If you listen to Safri's voice, it was like nothing else. Again, it was like magic. The guy's voice was just it just made every song sound good because he was such a good singer. And the production, if there was nothing that sounded like that. There was a massive wave of remixes back then, whether there be these bootleg Case of Bass albums, which I'm a fan of, or whether it be, your Bally Sagoo or your Punjabi MC kind of, or LL Cool Sing was massive back then, the Senator and stuff. But this was it just sounded fresh, and it was the kind of the tunes that were on that album. They were just like, it just set everything apart, because the bands that were out back then, they had their own sound, but it was still quite a classic kind of a Bhangra band sound. But these guys, when they were making tunes, they took it using samples, and they were taking it to another level, and it just sounded so fresh from a band perspective. And again, from start to finish, man, I just remember listening to that album constantly in like my cousin's car when we would go to daytimers or go to gigs, and even just on my Walkman back then. I had a mini disc player, actually. I was a bit more cool. I had a mini disc player. Only mini disc. I was going up in the world. And just listening to it, like, kind of like going to school and whatnot, I was thinking, yeah, this album. And I remember the cover was like a bluey, purpley colour, or being like red, pinky colour. Yeah.
Like,
and I was just
coming
like,
out of space.
That's it. And it was just that. It just sounded so different, man. It just sounded so unique in comparison to the other bands at that time, for me personally, that were coming out. And I was like, yeah, this is killer, man. And that was another album that you can pick up now, listen to it, and have no problem listening to it all the way through and enjoy it.
What's your favourite song of the album? There's like, you've got the likes of...
it was always the boys bullying, wasn't it? It was the bullying that was the thing that was just kicking it. Like, you just, from start to finish, that was it. And I think then I realised later it was Bhuta Jagpal from B21 who was producer on the album.
Yeah.
You just think, man, like there we are playing football with him now, and I'm thinking, mate, you're like,
you don't want to go in. You don't want to go in for a tackle or boot a jack, pal. But it's like,
yeah, I'm like, I can't.
Needs must, pal. I've got to do it. Sorry, man.
We need your music, so I won't take you out, man. Don't worry, score the goal. It's all right.
Yeah, I got cramp. That's why I didn't take you out.
Yeah. And then you get True School. Go, when do you get the ball?
I got cramp.
I couldn't take him out, bro. Like, he's too valuable, man. He's too valuable. So, but yeah, you know what? It's crazy. But yeah, it is crazy for me because obviously where I live, literally only Asian in the village. So then when you become a figure within the music industry, Asian music industry, and you're going to Birmingham, going all around the world, and you make friends with all these people, and you're thinking, well, I used to listen to this album when I was a kid, and now we're having a Nando's. It is still a bit surreal, but they're cool guys, really, really cool guys, and yeah, he done magnificently well on that album.
In at number 2 now is an album which had 4 tracks on it, and I think the opening track has to be one of the greatest tracks to ever be dropped at a Desi night, at a Bhangra night in the 90s by any DJ. It is Def Jam Productions, which featured Safri on there. Happy, who plays drums for the Legends band, dropped the vocal on Jatli Dushmani as well. He had his brother Bobby on there as well. Yo, put Sardar on there, man. It's just... Talk to me about this album.
Do you know, again, it was just, it just took everything to a bit of a different level, like how the tunes were sounding, how they were dropping, and like, yeah, like Safri, again, that track was just, mate, everywhere you went, whether you went to a gig, daytimer, nighttime gig, in whatever, going down Soho Road, going down Broadway, every car was banging Def Jam albums. And you know what, they were just that was the thing to listen to. Nowadays, you know, people want to listen to SoundCloud mixes and all the rest of it and whatnot. But back then, these were the albums. Like when I was a kid, like it just weighed heavy on influencing me into doing what I wanted to do. There's so many other albums that I wanted to put in here, like that were like, you know, you got Zeus's Under the Influence, massive. Imran Khan's Unforgettable, I think it was his album, the first one. Lemba Jalakia, these albums, like they were flawless. Like they were so good. But you know, but back then when I'm looking at what really influenced me and what I can still listen to today, yeah, those Def Jam albums and the ones we mentioned, they were flawless.
So like we've spoken in the past about the role of a warm-up DJ at a club night. Now,
vital.
It's a vital role where you're kind of setting the agenda, you're setting the mood, but you're not playing the big tunes, and that's like a difficult thing to do. And especially if you're a warm-up DJ, it's probably your first gig, or you know, you're in your kind of first phase of doing stuff. Around about that time, I'm guessing you were kind of getting into that club scene. When did you get to play Put Sardar on there first and see that reaction from the crowd? Because that was a crazy man.
Yeah, I got to play big tunes when DJs never turned up or they were too drunk to play. so when I was never really part of like a road show back then that was doing weddings and whatnot. That the kind of like I was with my mate Manny, who had a road show, but the majority of the bookings that we had were more, you know, kind of like Bollywood kind of parties, more Bollywood crowds. So it was when I was doing like warm-up sets in clubs, that's when I was getting to drop a lot of these albums and a lot of the tunes from these albums we mentioned. But yeah, man, never, you know, I'd be there when there was like literally no one in the club, and I would literally stay until there was no one in the club because I'd have to wait for the night bus or the tubes and trains to start. So I couldn't really get home anyway. So I'd have to stay there. So I'd always be that DJ at hand as well. And you'd want to hear everyone and, you know, feel the vibe. You're like a 14, 15-year-old kid. You're not even meant to be there anyway. Yeah. And I just remember wanting, just like, oh, they haven't turned up. Oh, I've got to go. Jags, you know what? Jump on for 10 minutes until we find someone, and then you know it's like prime time, so you get to drop the bangers, you know, Saki on the Ball, these kind of Def Jam tune, Suffree tunes and whatever it was. And yeah, they were the times to make the feeling, the vibe, you know. It's unfortunately you don't get it as that same kind of matched vibe anymore. But wow, the Raw, you know, it was different. It was a different vibe, man. It was like a drug.
So in at number 1 for Jags Klimax is all-time Bhangra track. It takes you back to 1986 and the band Heder and their classic Diamonds from Heder. Like, for me, every tune, whether it's I Love You or Your actually track number 5, Vada Heder Diamonds, just killer tunes, man. Why is
I know you love I Love You. That's your favorite track. I Love You. That's your
naughty one.
This is the album of all albums league when you think about Heder, Diamonds from Heder. Listen, mate, I was too young obviously to even know what it was when it came out, but it was more of an album that I appreciated more when I was into kind of Bhangra music later on, when I was like in my early teens and whatnot. This is just stuck with me, this album. Like, as in, it's one album that will always be on my phone. It will always be on my playlist or whatever. Just any track, again, like out of all of them, you can listen to it from the start to the finish. Yeah. It just sounds sick. And again, you know, you are a massive Bhangra fan. And you know, whether it be from like the singers and the bands from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all the way up until now, these guys, for some reason, they just had a different twist on it. And later on in my life, when I realized that it was produced by Deepak Kazanji, who done a lot of the remixes for these guys as well. Like, you just think, like, how does this guy's mind work? You know, on a producer level, like, you kind of like that fanboy kind of moment thinking, well, how's this guy done it? It just sounds sick. And but the album, man, I can listen to it, everything, whether it be the violin or the talkie or the vocals or the lyrics, it just gels. It's just something that just worked so well. And I like, that's looking at it on a musical, on my work mode. But as a music fan, man, I could just listen to it over and over again and sing along to it. Everyone knows all the words to all the songs. And yeah, man, I think that's the ultimate for me, that album.